for news that's short, sharp and shrewd.
Are you talking about the podcast or me?
Both.
Backhanded compliment.
This is Up Late with Ben Harvey. Is it any wonder this religious discrimination bill is so controversial?
So it would be legal to be a bigot as long as you genuinely believe in whatever racist, xenophobic, homophobic thing you're saying. And it will be legal to discriminate against the people you are legally vilifying as long as you are upfront about your racist, xenophobic, homophobic tendencies. This thing started after the Same-Sex Marriage Act came in. Religious groups were worried we would be forced to have four-way throwdowns with Joe Exotica, and Ruby Rose would be allowed to muscle in on the order of the Sisters of St John of God. The churches complained to their friend in faith, Scott Morrison. He went to the last election promising to put protections in place so that religious groups could continue explaining to us which of us will be condemned to hell and why.
Back, spawn of Satan!
At Tuesday's Liberal Party meeting, ScoMo finally won the backing of his party and the laws will be introduced soon.
So give it to us in a nutshell. What did the party settle on?
The bill will allow faith-based organisations like schools and hospitals to reject employees who don't share their values. Now, moderates in the Liberal Party were worried this could mean gay and trans students could be targeted and they wanted extra protections for them. They want the Sex Discrimination Act to be amended so that those kids can't be expelled from school, at least not because of their sexuality or gender identity. Same-sex attracted kids now appear to be safe from getting the boot. They can still be forced to pray the gay away, mind. But Tasmanian MP Bridget Archer couldn't convince her fellow Libs to extend the same protection to trans kids. That was apparently a bridge too far for the Conservatives, many of whom are wishing we could go back to the good old days when heterosexual families could enjoy homosexuality and gender fluidity from a safe distance. In the audience.
All right!
It will be legal for religious schools to sack gay and trans teachers or staff who don't share their broader religious beliefs, but only if they make their discriminatory policies known publicly. You can't ambush someone.
Labor's going to support it with a but.
The ALP is making a big song and dance about protecting trans students by removing the exemption that allows organisations to discriminate against them. What Anthony Albanese isn't making a big song and dance about is it was Labor that put that exemption in the Sex Discrimination Act back in 2013. They did that because it was rightly pointed out that an all-boys school isn't equipped to educate girls, and vice versa, in terms of toilets and change rooms and uniforms. And that's before you have the argument with the parents who paid a lot of money to put their kid in a single-sex school only to find out it had become co-ed. The Reds are worried about the so-called Statement of Beliefs clause as well. This will allow people to continue to say offensive things.
Well, that's good news for you.
God botherers of all persuasions will be able to say things like homosexuality is a sin or Caitlyn Jenner will go to hell without fear of being sued or charged with a hate crime. But there's one catch. If you say that stuff, you have got to be able to prove that you really believe it. Your prejudices must be in good faith.
I just don't like you.
And you can't say the offensive thing if you have the express intent of harassing or intimidating a person. If you genuinely think your God believes it, then you can say it.
Israel Folau will be happy.
The Statement of Beliefs clause is a watered-down version of the original Folau clause, which was included after Rugby Australia sacked Israel for saying he believed homosexuals would go to hell. His dismissal still upsets stubbornly heterosexual fans of the sport who just want to enjoy the game for what it is. Israel defended his right to make the remark by quoting Corinthians from the New Testament, which says, "Love thy brother, just not like that."
What's your position on the laws?
It's not for a middle-aged white guy to tell other people what they can and can't feel insulted by, but people, even gingers, don't have the right to not be offended.
ScoMo must hate having to talk about this stuff.
And with good reason. Because annoying people like me bring up the fact that when Folau said God's plan was for gays to go to hell, Morrison applauded his strong character. It was only when Folau went on to list other people he thought would also go to hell, drunks, adulterers, liars, fornicators, thieves, atheists and idolaters, that ScoMo withdrew his support, perhaps realising Israel had just described half his front bench. And people like me also like to bring up the fact that Morrison was completely opposed to the Gay Marriage Act that sparked this whole debate. He lobbied against it as hard as he could. And in one of the great acts of gutlessness in modern politics, he then abstained from voting. Ran out of the chamber so he didn't have to declare his hand, which was total cowardice.
I tell you what, that's a good segue to what Pat Cummins said today.
Pat Cummins, the man who refused to say anything about whether he thought Justin Langer should continue as coach when it actually mattered, has broken his silence on the whole coach issue, and he makes it sound like he's sad JL was iced.
He's a perfect man for the times. He did a fantastic job. Absolutely loved working with him. Thought he was brilliant.
He then goes on to say Langer is a legend who drove a better team culture, higher team standards, and would be a welcome face in the change room. If you really think that's the case, Pat, why the isn't he the coach?
Yeah, I reckon JL would have a better chance in that change room than the Prime Minister at National Press Club.
Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins appeared at the press club today. Morrison was a no-show. He's been bagged for not going, but to be honest, he can't really do anything right at the moment. He goes and it's a stunt, he doesn't go and it's a snub. Tame bagged him out for apologising to victims of sex abuse at Parliament, even though it was a key recommendation of the Jenkins report. The guy could fall out of a boat and not hit water on this one. In the end, it was probably better that he wasn't there because it was a pretty good pile-on. Brittany said his actions failed to match his words.
I'm not interested in words anymore. I want to see action.
Not that that really mattered because his words were crap in the first place.
Yes, some of his language last year was shocking and at times, admittedly, a bit offensive.
Tame used her time at the microphone to reveal that someone from a government-funded organisation tried to intimidate her into not speaking out against the Prime Minister.
A fear for himself and no one else.
Which may account for this look.
She's got courage of her convictions.
It's not only young people who are calling out the powerful at the moment, though. The old rockers are ganging up on poor old Joe Rogan. The world's most popular podcaster has been under fire for giving oxygen to COVID conspiracy theories, and he's now the subject of his own pile-on after audio emerged of him dropping N-bombs and using misogynistic language. Neil Young, who at 76 isn't exactly in the middle of the woke age demographic, was the first to act. He demanded Spotify remove his songs for as long as the platform continued to host Rogan's show. Joni Mitchell, 78, then joined him, and then guitarist Nils Lofgren, 70. Crosby, Stills and Nash followed them.
Does anyone born this century want to have a go?
It might start happening because a bloke called Alex Patterson, who by all accounts hates Rogan's guts, has unearthed 7 clips he says further proves Rogan is racist and sexist. Not that Rogan gives a crap, because a Canadian website has offered to match his $100 million contract with Spotify and has promised no censorship as well.
We never censor you.
Pay me $100 million, you can do anything you want. I'm Ben Harvey. If you'd like to watch Up Late with me, Ben Harvey, search for The West Australian on YouTube.